Thank you so much for the opportunity to ask the question, and thank you to the member for that wonderful speech. One of the issues that keeps arising in my riding, Mr. Speaker, is a very particular challenge of people over-harvesting shellfish. And one of the major concerns is the fact that there is not enough enforcement. There's nobody there watching, checking how many shellfish are being harvested. And that goes to a sad history of seeing staff from the Department of Fisheries slowly erode in smaller rural communities. So as this challenge continues to grow, Indigenous communities are coming forward, the general population are coming forward, particularly in Powell River, where we now have busloads of people coming in from the Lower Mainland to harvest shellfish from one particular beach. And so I'm just wondering if the member would be willing to speak about the importance of enforcement and how we need to look further into the future around legislation of creating some more of a safety net for this industry. Thank you.
Honourable member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Well, that's an excellent question and excellent comments. I think there are a number of different issues that we have to look at. First of all, is public information. We have areas called rockfish conservation areas where certain activities are not allowed to happen. But you know, the casual fisher or the harvester may not even know that those areas are posted. So we need to make sure that those areas are more clearly delineated. Secondly, yes, absolutely, we must reinforce and rebuild the DFO's ability to do the enforcement necessary to protect fish stocks and shellfish stocks in this case. But then finally, we heard so many times from so many people that we have the capability, the capacity of people who make a living on the water, are Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people who can make a contribution not only to the science but also to the monitoring of compliance with the rules and regulations that will be coming forward in this bill. So on all three scores, I hope that that would address the concerns that the honourable member raises.
Commentaire, the honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci beaucoup. I'd like to thank my colleague for providing that overview of this bill, Bill C-68. As someone who grew up on the north coast of BC and who actually worked at a cannery filleting fish and salmon as a teenager, I know how important the fishery industry is to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And I would really like to ask my colleague how this bill fulfills basically what is a campaign commitment, a platform commitment that our party ran for in 2015 to restore balance to environmental programs, to restore balance to the Fisheries Act. And I would love to hear what and how this fulfills what our platform was about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Full member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Well, certainly a key value that we put forward is the necessity to make evidence-based decisions. The problem that we've had is that the evidence hasn't been available because the capability to collect that evidence was seriously compromised over the past 10 years. We want to rebuild that, but at the same time employ the precautionary principle to move in where things might not necessarily be clear, but we know something's going on and we have to take immediate remedial action. Like my honourable friend, I spent some time on the North Coast too, out in the fishing boats. And one of the things that concerns me about the activities here on the West Coast is the separation of the people who own boats and the people who own the fishing quotas. And this is something that, you know, they've been struggling with on the East Coast as well, but seem to have a much different and much healthier industry because of their approach on the East Coast. This legislation also introduces an opportunity to talk about this issue on the West Coast.
I think we've got time for, nous avons le temps juste